justice. Please welcome Ms. Nukila Evanty.
Thank you, Moderator Osei. Good afternoon, friends who are taking part on this event online. We're still online, especially for the panelists present today. Some of my friends from FIP alumni in Salzburg, Austria. Today's panelists are very colorful from 6 countries. They are from journalists, from NGOs, civil society organizations, think tanks organization, and as well as from universities. Interesting about these 5 series with them structural gender-based violence in Asia, strategic advocacy. Rohit will speak regarding gender and security sector. Then Khuzaimah will speak regarding the case of Maranda community in the southern Philippines. Chakriya will discuss her experience on facilitative listening design, like a methodology, right, for women, for communities. Then Nisi will speak on gender-based violence in Sri Lanka. So why we need to discuss on this issue and knowing the advocacy strategies. This is because women in every part of the world still subjected to structural violence, or we call in the on the terms gender-based violence or GBV. So this GBV which result from the systemic discrimination, systemic stigmatization, and then patriarchal societies for sure, misogyny, domestic violence that preventing women from meeting their basic needs, such as their access to health, their access to education, their access to work, for example. This structural gender-based violence as aspect like women subordination, and then execution of power, and then there is a class interest from the basis of the status. So discussing about advocacy strategies on the context of structural gender-based violence, based on my experience, I would like to share. I believe that the other panelists will have some experience as well. I conducted such as empowering girls and women in particular areas, but for instance in the village, disadvantaged village. And then I was also engaging male allies. It's very important to engage men in our groups as women, and then including women in decision making as a leadership level, and then supporting women lead organization or women rights organization is very critical as well, and many more, right?
All right. Thank you, Ms. Nukila Evanty, for the opening remarks. Now I would like to introduce the first speaker, Mr. Rohit Karki.
Thank you, Jamila, and also Nukila for your introductory remarks, and it's a pleasure to be in this forum. Sorry, can you see it on the screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what I will do today is to present the basic concept on the gender and security sector. What does it mean? I mean, and also it relates to some of the work that our organization in particular is doing. I mean, DCAF is doing on the area of gender and security sector. So as we all, I mean, we keep asking the same question: why is gender relevant to security and justice? I mean, we all know the importance of having a gender-related mandate, but also gender-related issues. I mean, we all know there are plenty of organizations, I mean, working on a gender-related issue. But DCAF's own approach is also, we also use the mainstreaming approach, that the gender should be mainstream in the various activities, and that is also relevant to the security and the justice providers. So why is gender relevant to the security and justice? Because what we all know so far is in our work also, I mean, the needs of men, women, boys and girls are different. So in order to address those needs, in order to provide the effective and accountable services to those needs of these various groups, gender does, the gender factor does matter. And second, we also need to look into, in a number of the Asia Pacific countries, if you look into the composition of the national security providers, be it the military, be it police, or even in the border security guards or the intelligence sectors, how many women are there? What are the representation of the women in terms of percentage, in terms of meaningful role that they have been playing? At the senior level, at the higher level. So we need to look into those data as well. Because why I'm telling that is because the gender affects the behavior of the men and women. So if there are predominantly male members of security forces, then their response to us, the larger group, would be different. So they would not factor in the needs of the men and women, the girls and boys. So it is important to enhance the gender equality in the security forces as well. Similarly, if you look into the perpetrators of the violence, that is the work that we all do. You prevent conflict. You want to manage any form of situation to escalate it into the violence. But in order to do that, you need to look into the gender dimension. What are the factors that influence the behaviors of the men as a perpetrators of the violence? But equally, how does women play their role as a violent? And there are cases where both men and women have been engaged in various the armed groups across the Asia Pacific region. We have seen that. At the same time, in the military and in the police forces also, once they are assigned or once they are delegated certain responsibility, they do have to follow the certain chain of command. So it is very important to map the perpetrators of violence and how the gender factors influence those behaviors. And we all know that the gender equality, the importance of gender equality, that has been mentioned in the international convention. The national convention also is the very strong norm that stipulates the equal rights of women and men to the opportunity and the resources, irrespective of the gender or the sex with which they were born. So when we talk about the resources, we need to also look into when we talk about the opportunity and the resources, we need to look at what we do. In our own work we also look or map out the opportunities that the woman or the transgender people gets in the security forces. Also, what kind of opportunity they get in order to climb the ladder within the various institutions, and what are the resources? Resources provided by the government, but also the heads of the institution for this group of people to empower themselves within this institution. Those kind of factors we do look into in our own work as well. And we all know, the gender is a socially construct. In various societies, there are certain norms that is kind of directly related to the men and women, but often we have seen that these norms can be changed over the period, depending on the culture, depending on the context, and depending upon the way you interact with the outside world. From the people from the other countries also. So we have seen how the gender has been socially constructed, but it has evolved depending on the country situation, but also over the period of time. And let me highlight some of the key concepts when I say some of these words, because these are very important words when we used in our own work. So when we say security sector, we include all the actors who are providing the security. So we call it security providers. So those are the military forces, the police. It does include in our own work the non-state security providers as well. So the armed groups, in certain areas in the Asia Pacific region, whether in Myanmar, whether in Philippines, whether in other, even in Afghanistan, we have seen that they have been providing the security to their own people within their community, within their village area also. So we do take them as a security provider as well. And similarly, we look into the governing institutions. There are ministries, the Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Defense, but also there are institutions like Parliament. There are parliamentary committee who kind of oversee the work of the military and the other security forces to ensure that they are performing their role in an effective and accountable manner. So we look more in a holistic manner when we say security sector. So both the security providers, but also the management and the oversight actors. And then we use the work of promoting the good governance within the security sector. So when we say the good governance, it means how do you make the security institution to perform their role in an effectively and accountable manner to the society. And also we ensure that these security forces are governed in a democratic manner, and there is an effective civilian control over these security forces. So we have seen across the Asia Pacific countries, there are cases in the countries where military has played a role in the politics. It has undermined the role of the civilian authorities. And in certain cases, we have seen the military coup in a number of countries also. And in our own work also, what we often say, this happened because there is a lack of governance. I mean, especially the civilian control over the military. There wasn't the effective civilian control, due to which those kind of incidents has occurred in many countries across the Asia Pacific region. So in order to address that, what we use the term we call is security sector reform. It's the way of improving the security sector so that it can provide both the human security, but also the national security or the state security in an effective and responsible manner, taking into consideration the needs of the men and women, boys and girls of the various societies. And let me quote one of the that we often quote in one of the our presentation, and the work is given by the Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General. I mean, the security sector should be subject to the same standard of efficiency, equity, and accountability as any other public services. So we say the security provision is a public sector, public service matter. So whether it's a provision of education, provision of health, similarly, the provision of security also needs to be measured from the similar standard like we do measure other components of public service institutions. So this is, I just wanted to briefly go through this concept because this is very much important in our own work while we promote the gender equality in the security sector. So when we say how to promote the good security sector governance, so we often look into these principles. These are the common principles, and of course, I'm pretty sure you all are familiar with these principles. So when we say accountability, we ensure that the military, the police, they remain accountable to the society, to the people, and to the government as well. So that is very important component also. And the transparency in the policy, whether it's a national security policies, whether it's a policy related to any military operations, or during those kind of activities, they might commit gross human rights violation also. So they need to adhere to this rule of law. So there are a number of these principles where we promote to ensure that the security sector is measured through this principle to ensure that they perform a certain standards and maintain the certain standard in terms of provision of the security. And as I said, I mean, like any other sector, security sector should be held to the same high standard of public service delivery. If security is lacking, if the provision of security is lacking in any particular community or any particular territories or in overall the state, then we say that there is a lack of accountability, there is a lack of rule of law, and because it happened, because there is not an equal representation of the people from the both in terms of gender aspect, but also on the ethnicity and other aspect also. So there are not the equal representation of people from all aspects of the society in your country, due to which security sector is not being able to perform their high standard or maintain the high standard. So it is important that one of the aspects that we keep pushing is integrating gender equality, and gender perspective is a key to each aspect of security forces to achieve the gender responsive security provision. So that is very essential, and why I will explain to you later. And this is our kind of map that we use, or the template that we often use, to show why the gender equality is important, or gender equality is important to achieve the good security sector governance. But of course, these are the common kind of set of idea, like gender equality is a human rights. I don't want to go through the detail, but we know there are a lot of conventions which promotes and which ensure that the nation state maintains the gender equality, be it in the laws, the policies, but also within the institutions as well. And we also know that the gender equality is fundamental to the rule of law. I mean, we have seen gender-based violence happening across the Asia-Pacific countries, in many parts of the world also. And it happens particularly because of the discrimination that is kind of institutionalized in the many contexts, be it in the constitution, be it the legal framework, be it in the practice of the stakeholders, be it the institutional actors, be it the non-institutional actors. So they all perpetuate this kind of violence. So it is essential that we maintain the rule of law in order to promote the gender equality. And we also promote that gender equality is a democratic principles that requires the participation of the all walks of the people, irrespective of their gender or sex. So it is very important that that the democratic thinking is inherent in our approach towards achieving the security sector governance. So if we do that, and what we always say is that gender equality is essential to effective and accountable security provision. Why I keep saying this is that the security sector, which is often dominated by the men or their patriarchic thinking, often perpetuates the similar kind of institutional culture within their own institution, often undermine and often promote the gender discrimination within their own institution, but it is also reflected in the behavior when they interact with the communities, when they were trying to implement some of the security provision, be it managing of the security operation or in terms of delivery of any kind of services. So if the institution which lacks the gender equality will not be able to perform their role in an effective and accountable manner. So it will undermine the performance of the security sector, and it will reflect in the behavior of the state as well. And we have seen it in numerous international kind of forum also, like for instance, the UN Human Rights Council. Often the states are measured on their performance while they are committing the human rights violence. And if you look into the actors that often commits the human rights violation are the security providers, be it a military, be it a police, be it a border security forces, or be it the intelligence sector. They are always in the forefront of the committing the human rights violation. That's why these actors need to be trained, and this actor need to be told that the importance of protecting the human rights, but also respecting the gender equality within their own institution. And let me highlight some of the key issues on gender and security sector governance. When we say that what we have seen is, in order to achieve the gender equality and good governance within the security institution, many security forces, be it in Asia Pacific or in African context, they are trying to ensure gender equality is focused on integrating more women. That means recruiting more women to the security forces, trying to make the institution more inclusive as well. So there has been a number of efforts undertaken recently by the governments across the Asia Pacific countries to recruit more and more women in the security forces. And also many security institutions now also consider what it means to mainstream and integrate gender in a military operation also. That is also being talked about, because as I said, often men, they often end up perpetrating a lot of violent activity. So it is important that the gender is also integrated into the military operation. So there are equal representation of women also in terms of chain of command, but also in terms of operating in the combatant's role. So it is equally important for them, because they also have the mandate to protect the civilians in the conflict. So they need to be equally responsible to address in the front line in terms of protecting and promoting human rights of the general civilian. And we have also seen that gender mainstream has also become important. There are push factor also, and particularly we have seen in a country like South Korea, where there is a declining in population, and also now it's not only the case in South Korea, but number of other countries in East Asia, but across the Asia Pacific also, and more people are not giving birth to birth. So there is a decline in the population, and which is being reflected in the security forces as well. So you don't have enough number to recruit the men in the security forces. So now they have, how do you call it, like forcefully open up for recruiting more women and even the transgender people to be be part of the security forces also. So that has somehow increased the women's participation, especially in the national security forces. And then there is another aspect, women in peacekeeping. That is a priority issues. Why? Because it is also a big push from the international community, and we have seen number of resolutions, especially the women peace and security resolution 1325. It talks about this issue both at the national context but also in the international context also, and it argues and also inform that if you increase the number of women peacekeepers, it will increase the efficiency of the peacekeeping operation, because as I said, that these peacekeepers are in the front line of the protecting the civilians, but also in terms of provision of security in the conflict zones. So if you have a larger percentage of women, then it will better perform their role in provision of security. And also there's a lot of push from the UN department that each member countries, especially if you look at the Asia Pacific countries, I think countries like Bangladesh, Nepal, India, and certain Southeast Asian countries, they send huge number of the peacekeeping troops every year to the UN peacekeeping operation. So there is a significant push to increase the women percentage in sending those troops. Now there's a big there is a compulsion that they have to send this number of percentage to the women, and that has increased. Especially if you look into the data of the Asian countries who were initially reluctant to send the women peacekeeping women in the peacekeeping operation, but now they have increased because the UN has mandated the requirement to send the individual both at the junior level, but also at the higher level also. And there are a number of data you can find in the if you look into your own country situation as well. So if you look into the country across your own, try to identify what are the increase of women in the UN peacekeeping operation also. So you will get clearly good indication if you see the data of the past 5 years or the past 10 years. Now we talk about reform. That is the work that we keep doing, like security sector reform, and part of that is also we talk about how to increase the gender equality in the security forces, and it won't happen overnight. There needs to be reform both at the legal legislative reform, but also on the policies, but also in the practices and enforcement. So I will go through some of them quickly. So when we say legal reform, first of all, you need to look into the constitution of your country, how the constitution is trying to promote the gender equality in your constitution, or is the constitution does not truly reflect the composition of the society. So in certain cases, you might have to reform the constitution, or you might have to amend your constitution to truly reflect the gender equality. That you need to look into the criminal law reform, because most of the work that the security forces, especially the police, the intelligence does, it is tied up with the overall criminal justice system of the society. So there are certain criminal code which might be offensive, which might undermine the gender equality. So those codes, those procedures, criminal procedure needs to be reformed in order to address the gender, in order to achieve the gender equality. And you need to look into the specific laws that promotes gender inequality. Actually, there are cases of increasing domestic violence. There are cases which discriminate based on the marriages, based on the whether women can have their own property or inheritance right also. So if those laws are still being practiced in your countries which undermines the gender equality, then you need to reform those laws. You need to advocate for reforming those laws, because until and only there is a legislative reform, it is very difficult to bring the reform in the policy and the regulations. So let me focus on some of the policy particularly targeted to the security forces. So there are policy on the recruitment, there are policy on the retention and the promotions inside the security forces. So if you look into the your own country situation, if there are no proper legislative legal mandate which promotes the gender equality, it would be very difficult to bring such policy changes at the institutional level. So once you make the reform at the legislative level, then you can easily make further reform in terms of recruitment policy. Look into whether your countries promotes the opportunity for women to join the police or the military forces or not. Then you need to look inside the system, the budgetary. That is a very important aspect. The human, the infrastructure. Because if you look into the many infrastructure within your own kind of police forces, like police forces, they are often deployed at the remote location. So do they have enough toilets? Is the toilets are equally divided between men and women, or there is a separate toilet for the woman police officer or not? Because what we have seen in our work, the police forces, the military also discriminate, also harass their own colleagues, the female colleagues, and there is an increasing gender violence inside the police institution, inside the military institution across the Asia Pacific region. So you need to look into this infrastructure and the budgetary issue to do a proper analysis of a gender-related issue. And then there is an issue of police and prosecutional policy in terms of investigation, in terms of promoting them, the women police officer, to establishing their expertise on certain disciplinary area. So those are the institutional reform issue that needs to be done in order to achieve the gender equality. And then lastly, you need to look into the practices and the enforcement mechanism. You need to look into the leadership. I mean, does the police leadership or the military leadership promotes the zero tolerance policy within the institution or not? So you need to see the leadership, how many women are promoted in the leadership position, whether the institution has those kind of opportunities for the woman to grow up in the ladder, or there is a discrimination based on, how meaningfully women can participate in the military and the police forces. You need to look into how many, the issue of gender-based violence are addressed within the institution, compliance factor. And then you need to look also the victim-centered approach, whether those victims who come for their services within the police and the military, are they getting effective service, or they are being abused again by this actor. So you need to look into those factors, and you need to look into the overall organizational culture. And of course, the organizational culture is a reflection of the culture of your society. So the organization will more or less use the similar culture and the practice what they are kind of used in the international context. So broadly, when we talk about achieving the gender equality in the country, especially the security forces, we talk about this kind of reform, and we holistically call it a security sector reform in order to achieve the gender equality in the security institution. If we truly do this kind of reform, then we believe that you can achieve a good security sector governance in the security forces. And lastly, I will quickly go through these slides, considering the time limitation as well. So this is the one of the tools that have been promoted by our organization. It's called Measuring Opportunity for Women in Peace Operation. It's called MOVIT. It's developed by the part of the LC initiative, developed by DCAF and Cornell University, funded by the Canada. The government of Canada has funded this initiative for the past 10 years. So what it does is it identify the universal and context-specific barriers. What are the barriers for women from participating in the military and also in the police organization? And it particularly focused on the UN peacekeeping operation. So it is a very helpful tool to assess your own country's situation, whether what are the barriers that prevents from women's to participation in the peacekeeping operations. Let me present a brief example of Ghana, where our colleagues from the Gender and Security Division have produced this report, and most of the reports is very easily accessible to our website. I will send you the link to our institutional website as well. I mean, basically, if you look into some of the categories, so this is the overall category or the measuring questions that we use to measure the effectiveness of women employment in the peace operation. So we look into the pre-deployment stage. We look into the eligible pool. Are there enough women in the national institution? So in order to send for the UN peacekeeping operation, you need to ensure that there are sufficient women represented in your national security forces. If you don't have enough women forces, you can't send them in the peacekeeping operation. So you need to assess those things. Then you need to look in the deployment criteria. Are the criteria gender neutral, or it is too heavy-handed or favor towards the men on? So you need to look into those axes. Then you need to look in the selection criteria. Then you need to look in the household constraint, because what we have seen is because often the male member of the family, whether it's in-laws, whether it's your own husband, or whether your children, they often discourage you to go abroad in this kind of operation, because there you have to share a lot of things with colleagues from the other countries, but also from your own national. So there are a lot of traditional norms or traditional biasness that comes in order to prevent this kind of thing. And there are also deployment stage also, like you look into the peace operation infrastructure. I talked a bit about it as well, like in the provision of toilet, for instance, how the infrastructure supports the police in the peace, the female police officer in the peace operation. So those things need to be looked into consideration. Then the post-deployment stage also, whether the peace operation values or help them to climb the ladder when they come back to their countries. So those kind of things. And there are certain cross-cutting issues like the gender roles, the social exclusion, and gender roles are often determined by the country context as well. Considering the time limitation, I won't go into too much detail. But again, these are some of the toolkits or the publication that we have published, and there are a number of them, and there are still some of them are long reports, some of them are short reports, so you can easily access them through our website. Thank you for this, and I'm sorry. I think I might went a bit overwhelmed. Over time, but thank you for listening. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Robert Karki, for this amazing presentation. Mr. Robert Karki made mention of why gender is relevant in the security and justice. He also made mention of gender equality in the security sector. All right. Now, let me say a few words about our next speaker, Ms. Nirasha Piyawadani.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Nirasha Piyawadani, journalist and program producer from Center for Media and Information Literacy. Apologize, I cannot open a camera, but during the time I am speaking, I'm trying my best to log in the meeting through my computer and on the camera. So, okay, I will start my speech. It is often used interchangeably to refer to both violence against women and gender-based violence. And despite being a country with a wide prevalence of gender-based violence, Sri Lanka still struggles to initiate a wider conversation on this issue and find solutions to prevent it. Okay, so yeah, many societies in the world, including Sri Lanka, have a misconception that gender-based violence only happens to women. Actually, are women only victims of gender-based violence? No, right? You all know there are several other groups are victims of GBV. Who are the other genders? Okay, I'm explaining about who are other genders of who are the other victims, the groups that are victims of gender-based violence. The impact and prevalence of sexual gender-based violence against men and boys in conflict-affected settings within the context of migration and in detention has likely been severely underestimated. It's very rare to see that some forums or organizations and groups speaking about gender-based violence against men and boys. But I think it's essential to talk. So due to social and cultural norms linked to masculinity, there are persistent gender stigmas associated with gender-based violence for male victims. Slide 4 and 5 will show you a new report launched by the International Committee of Red Cross that never happened here. The name of that report is That Never Happened Here, Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Against Men, Boys, and including LGBTIQ people in humanitarian settings, highlights the crushing impact and prevalence of sexual gender-based violence against other overlooked groups. Okay, my computer is fixed now. Apologize for taking your time. I'm taking a few minutes to log in through my computer, then I switch on my camera. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing the slide. Yeah, slide 6 will show gender-based violence has almost become a clinched term in gender terminology. We have spoken about over and over again. Why? It has really lost its essence, but it's not merely a term. It is an utterly bitter reality in the world and in Sri Lanka. Over the past 12 years, I have explored new avenues for reaching the masses to discuss productively about gender-based violence through the media and the slide 8 will show you
could
you kindly go to slide number 8? slide number 8 will show you in many countries across Asia and the Pacific, the proportion of women who report having experienced physical or sexual violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime is substantially higher than the global average of 27%. At 35% in India, 38% in Timor-Leste, and 50% and over in Fiji, Kiribati, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, and Bangladesh. This is small statistics of Asia. So slide 10 will show you, even before the pandemic, the women well-being survey shows that 1 in 5 women in Sri Lanka have experienced sexual and physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime, and 1 in 4 women, 24.9% in Sri Lanka, have experienced sexual and physical violence since the age of 15, 2019. So today my focus lies predominantly on the workplace harassment of women and gender-based violence, with an emphasis on exploiting loopholes in law enforcement. So through storytelling, I will describe specific things I discovered through my self-research about gender-based violence in Sri Lanka. Natasha Edrisuriya, a Sri Lankan stand-up comedian, was arrested at Katunayake International Airport last 28 May on accusation that she defamed Buddhism through her performance in a comedy program in April. So Bruno Divakara, journalist, he's a male journalist and the head of the YouTube channel SL Vlogs, where the video presented by Natasha was broadcast, was arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department last 31st May. But the police soon released him on bail. There have been cases in the past where writers and journalists were arrested for content that posted a threat to religious and national harmony and national security under the provisions, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights Act, ICCPR. What specifically we noticed was there was a big difference was seen between the comments on Bruno and Natasha on social media. Natasha was heavily insulted on social media based on her femininity. I think this example is also very effective in showing how online violence has also become an offline threat. Natasha was released after 1 month on US dollar 320 bail in Colombo on July 5th, following the intervention of a high court judge. However, I'm asking from all of you, can individuals be arrested under hate speech, inciting violence for stating a hilarious and humorous joke as a stand-up comedian? It is an inviolable right for people to enjoy freedom of expression in various ways. As a result, it ensures not only the right to a quality life, but also the right to democratic society. The bail hearing shed light on these issues pertaining to the abuse of International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR Act in Sri Lanka. Judge Patabandige referred to the statement made by former Minister Rohit Karki in Parliament during the introduction of the ICCPR Act. The judge emphasized that the act was being used to fulfill different objectives by various parties. In addition, the court took into consideration the Rabat Action Plan put forth by the Human Rights Committee of the United Nations. This plan played a vital role in establishing the offense under Section 3.1 of the ICCPR Act, which Natasha was accused of violating. The judge clarified that Natasha's statement did not incite national, religious, or racial hatred and should not be interrupted as such. So all these facts make it clear that Natasha was falsely alleged and imprisoned. It is evident that some parties have subtly exploited the loopholes in law enforcement to engage in gender-based violence. But where do the ordinary people go to take action against that injustice? They can lodge court cases, but the process consumes a big cost and long time. In the meantime, excuse me, I think I am joining through my computer to the Zoom meeting, so I will able to open video. Yeah, you are seeing a cartoon through this computer. This is about another incident that I'm going to explain. Recently happened in Sri Lanka in a rural area. This is the next incident I'm going to explain. 3 persons have been arrested in connection with the rape of a 15-year-old girl inside a bus at Kurunegala. Kurunegala is a very rural area in Sri Lanka. They are a youth who committed to crime, and the driver and the conductor of the bus. After school, the girl had boarded the bus to go home, but the suspects had reportedly taken her around 1 kilometer further from her destination with the bus empty of passengers. Police said the 2 bus workers had closed the doors and window panes of the bus and aided the young man to abuse her sexually. So sexual harassment and assault in public transport is a common occurrence in almost all societies in the world. But can we tolerate it? What are the solutions that bring law enforcement in our countries? So the types of harassment can vary from relatively mild to extremely serious in nature. So in line with the international conventions and standards, Act 2822 of Section 345 of the Penal Code of Sri Lanka, 1995, recognize sexual harassment as a criminal offense. But if an ordinary person go to police station and to make complaint, they don't take it as a serious problem. So, but new research from Oxfam report done by a Sri Lankan researcher finds that sexual harassment of women, girls, and gender non-conforming people on public transport is tolerated by urban Sri Lankan commuters who consider it normal male behavior, an everyday occurrence, and the fault of women for not being submissive, obedient, or dressing decently. These beliefs are fueling abuse. 90% of women and girls in Sri Lanka have been sexually harassed on buses and trains at least once in their lifetime, and over half say they have experienced violence on a regular basis, according to 2017 study by the UN. So due to such incidents, there is a risk that international tourists, women, and children are scared to travel alone in our country in the night. Gender-based violence has a very negative impact on the economy of a country. So UN Secretary General Antonio has declared violence against women as a horrific violation of human rights, a public health crisis, and a major obstacle to sustainable development. He further announced this year's theme of the Unite campaign as Invest to prevent violence against women and girls, calling on individuals, communities, and nations to take decisive action. The campaign encourages support for legislation and comprehensive policies that strengthen the protection of women and girls across the board. Sri Lanka has taken significant steps towards the protection of human rights since its readmission into the GSP Plus schemes in 2017. However, challenges remains, and a risk of backtracking on reforms was identified in the years between 2020 and 2022. In March 2022, popular discontent translated into a mass movement overcoming ethnic, class, gender, and general divides. The protest highlighted that Sri Lanka civil society is organized and capable of mobilization, and for a significant period, they were able to protest in the spirit of democracy and freedom of expression assembly. While this points to some deeply felt grievances during the period of protest Sri Lanka, citizens across communities could enjoy space of dissent. Yes, slide 17 will show you on last 18 September 2023, the Ministry of Public Security gazetted the bill titled Online Safety intended to Reena, it would be great if we can go to slide number 17 before this slide number 17. Yeah, it's about online violence. But the newly gazetted bill has many problems because end of the day, Supreme Court is not the place that handle cases. There are 51 petitions came against this new bill. So we hope government will take necessary actions to solve the loopholes of new online safety bill. This body of legislation taken together foster a chilling effect on the exercises of fundamental freedoms, restricting civil society while unduly expanding the reach of the security state. So I'm a journalist, so I don't have permission to suggest solutions. But as a human who respect human rights, because women rights and all rights of any groups are human rights. So I, as an ordinary citizen, I would like to suggest what can the simple solutions that can governments and civil societies can take to prevent gender-based violence. I think the correct word is than prevent is controlling gender-based violence. What are the steps that organizations and governments can take? Legal steps and protection, providing information on the legal steps that victims can take with all. This includes understanding the reporting process, obtaining restraining orders, and seeking legal resources. Awareness campaigns can educate individuals on their rights and available legal protections. Number two, identifying the loopholes of the law enforcement and training. It's a long process, but it's urgently need to Sri Lanka and all other countries in Asia. And support services. This is the most important thing for a country, because when ordinary people face when they go through gender-based violence, they don't have effective, productive, supportive support service. Even though we can see there are so many organizations, we have a problem. What is the exact solution those organizations bring to the victim? So we need a productive support services. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Nirasha, for this amazing presentation. So Ms. Nirasha made mention of the definition of gender-based violence. She also talked about violence against women in Sri Lanka with examples. And lastly, made mention of online violence against women. Okay, now let's move on to the next speaker, Ms. Khuzaimah Maranda.
Okay, thank you very much. So since time is of the essence, I'll go directly to my presentation. It's about the case of the Maranda community in addressing gender-based violence. And following through from the discussion of my group mates, Nirasha and Rohit, I think it was a good take-off to have a reorientation or a refresher on the definition of gender-based violence, right? So I'll start by sharing with you about gender-based violence in the case of the Maranda community, which is, of course, the province of Lanao del Sur and Lanao del Norte. being more known during the Marawi siege, right, in 2017. But I'll tell you a brief background that the gender-based violence working group, in the Philippines has actually started to advocate um, addressing gender-based violence in 2017 through the government structures that were already provided or established. Why is this? Because there was a rapid assessment of gender-based violence and child protection concerns that were also documented in 2017, and it revealed that girls and young women are facing increased risk to GBV, including sexual abuses and early forced marriage, maybe because of the situation that they are in at the time that the assessment was done. So 45% of conflict affected sites assessed reported that girls were the most affected by sexual violence. The complex interplay of religious, cultural, political, and economic factors perpetuates or exacerbates the culture of silence around the issue of GBV. The assessment showed that survivors are discouraged from speaking out and accessing report because they are stigmatized or rejected by their families and communities. Marrying off the survivor to the perpetrator is usually a form of the amicable settlement thirdly, to avoid widow or clan feuds. For further details on this, you may check on the link below that I shared with you. And so this is a brief introduction of what we have in our context. But looking at the macro level, what mechanisms do we already have in our country that attempt to address issues related to gender-based violence? So number one, we have the Republic Act 9262, or the Anti-Violence Act Against Women and Their Children. And this means that any act or a series of acts by a person against a woman who is his former wife, or against a woman, can actually be punishable by law. And in to be more practical about the application of the law, our security sectors now have VAUSI-esque or Violence Against Women and Children desks in the municipal level to actually receive reports related to this law. Another law that we have is the Republic Act 11648, which is actually for providing the stronger protection against rape and sexual exploitation. Specifically, there is a special protection of children against abuse, exploitation, and discrimination, and that children, whether male or female, who for money, profit, and other consideration, or due to coercion or influence of any adult, syndicate, or group, indulge in sexual intercourse or lascivious conduct, are deemed to be children exploited in prostitution and other sexual violence. Hence, a commensurate punishment provided by law is also given. So these are just two of the landmark laws that are passed in our Congress to attempt to address gender-based violence in our country. But given all this, what do we have in status quo now, especially in my province where I am from? So according to studies and researches conducted to shed light on gender-based violence, you have UN agencies and other international organizations that study the status of gender-based violence. There is a concession that gender-based violence or mitigating gender-based violence is still a long process to go. Number two, there is underreporting related to GBV. As what I've mentioned, that in the local level, there are already desks for VAUSI, wherein a woman police officer or a woman security sector member is actually given special tasks to receive reports related to GBV. However, there is an observation that there is underreporting related to GBV, despite the efforts of going through referral pathways, etc., especially at the height of the Marawi siege. So that is an observation in status quo. Number three, culture still plays a critical role as an enabler or as a part of the enabling environment to addressing gender-based violence or as a deterrent to addressing gender-based violence. As what I've mentioned in the second slide, that there is fear of actually reporting gender-based violence because culture suggests or recommends that in order to prevent dragging the image or the family name or the clan from further issues related to gender-based violence. Marriage has become an option for amicable settlement or forcing the survivor to marry the perpetrator has also become an option to which other survivors or victims tend to avoid because it's out of their will. Hence, these results to the underreporting of GBV. So what to do now? Number one, there has to be continuous education awareness program related to the GBV and incorporate fatwa or Islamic teachings in addressing GBV, especially that there is a need for us to dichotomize the relationship between culture and religion, or actually so that we can avoid culturalizing our religion, right? Because Islam, for example, place women in a pedestal of being a gem, being protected. However, cultural practices tend to shy away from what the religion prescribes. Number four, at the policy level, we need to continue to engage champions to craft laws that are context specific and culture conscious that will strengthen protection of survivors reporting cases that they have gone through. And number two, and our next one is to empower local authorities to really enforce the law. Um, Giving consideration to what the culture and the context suggest. So that is a very brief presentation from me, Karina, in relation to how we should address GBV and what are the experience that we have in our province. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Khuzaimah, for the amazing presentation. Ms. Khuzaimah made mention of how the law of Philippines is made to address gender-based violence in the country and also give some suggestions in solving gender-based violence. Please, let's welcome Ms. Chakriya Chhun.
Thank you so much, Enoch, for handing the floor to me. Thank you so much. And once again, greeting everyone and hello from Cambodia. It is my great honor to be part of this discussions today and I will hear the insightful sharing from Nasaras, Rohit, and Khuzaimah about the context of GBVs in their countries. So now I will share with you about the context of gender-based violence in Cambodia, and mainly will discuss about the works that we work to respond to the gender-based violence in our local organization. Can you move to the next slide? So today's discussion, I will share about the who we are as a local NGO, an animation video. Our tools of research finding is facilitative listening design, the finding, and the joint network. But before we begin, I would like to introduce everyone about who is WPM as well. Could you move to the next slide? Well, so who we are as a local NGO in Cambodia. So Women Peacemakers, we began as a youth and women-led organization in 2000, and then we become a registered non-governmental organization in 2003. And what we want to see here is to see a gender-just society where everyone, regardless of their identity, or no matter where they are, their ability can reach their full potential and they live from violence. So what we are doing right now is to support the empowerment of women, youth, transform conflict and prevent violence by our creating tools to have a deeper understanding and the strategic interventions of these issues of gender and peace. So Nick, I would like to share with all of you about the producing animation video from our work entitled Lift Up. So you may go to the next slide. So the list of video will share you about the stories of the woman named in the video. So you may watch here. Okay, so here we are. So this animation video will show us about the stories of a woman, Chuma Savon. So take a look at it all together.
នាំមកជូនដោយអង្គការនារីដើម្បីសន្តិភាពរឿងអប់រំដែលមានចំណងជើងថាក្រោកឡើងកាលពីឆ្នាំមុនស្ត្រីសហគមន៍4នាក់បានមកជុំគ្នាដើម្បីស្វែងរកអ្វីដែលផ្សារភ្ជាប់ពួកគេនៅក្នុងដំណើរនេះពួកគេបានជួបស្ត្រីជាច្រើនដែលកំពុងជួបប្រទះបញ្ហាស្រដៀងគ្នានឹងពួកគាត់នាងខ្ញុំឈ្មោះលក្ខស្រីនាងស្រីនាងហុចការទៅឲ្យចំបៃសួស្តីខ្ញុំឈ្មោះចំបៃខ្ញុំជាអ្នកគាំទ្រស្ត្រីជាដើមប្រទេសកម្ពុជាខ្ញុំឈ្មោះមួងកញ្ញាហុចការទៅឲ្យសុកអន់ជំរាបសួរខ្ញុំឈ្មោះសុកអន់ខ្ញុំជាតំណាងស្ត្រីមកពីជនបទដែលមករស់នៅទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញសួស្តីខ្ញុំឈ្មោះហៀងហុចការទៅឲ្យម៉ាដែនជំរាបសួរនាងខ្ញុំឈ្មោះម៉ាដែននាងខ្ញុំជាអ្នកគាំទ្រក្រុមស្ត្រីដែលប្រជុំនៅក្នុងអំពើភាសាខ្ញុំឈ្មោះតានីកាហុចការទៅឲ្យសាវ៉ននាងខ្ញុំឈ្មោះណោមសាវ៉ននាងខ្ញុំជាអ្នកគាំទ្រស្ត្រីដែលជាជនពិការយើងសាក់ស្រមៃមើលប្រសិនស្ត្រីម្នាក់មានលក្ខណៈរបស់ស្ត្រីទាំង4ក្រុមនេះជារឿងប្រឌិតមួយប៉ុន្តែវាជារឿងពិតរបស់ជុំម៉ាសវុនខ្ញុំឈ្មោះចំណាសាវុនហើយនេះជារឿងរ៉ាវរបស់ខ្ញុំងងឹតភ្នែកតាំងពីកំណើតខ្ញុំជាអ្នកមកពីជនបទហើយជាជនជាតិដើមភាគតិចឪពុកម្ដាយរបស់ខ្ញុំចង់ឲ្យខ្ញុំរៀបការមានប្តីមានកូនតែខ្ញុំអត់ចង់ធ្វើតាមគាត់ទេបងជីដូនមួយខ្ញុំបានយកខ្ញុំមកនៅទីក្រុងជាមួយគាត់តាំងពីខ្ញុំនៅតូចគាត់ប្រាប់ខ្ញុំថាខ្ញុំអាចនៅជាមួយគាត់និងអ្នកផ្ទះគាត់បានខ្ញុំសាកមកលក់ម្ហូបនៅក្បែររោងចក្រតើកែរោងចក្រហ្នឹងតែសើចំអកលក់លើយនឹងមើងងាយខ្ញុំទោះខ្ញុំងងឹតភ្នែកមើលអីមិនឃើញតែខ្ញុំលឺគាត់និយាយគាត់សាចំអកគាត់ថាខ្ញុំក្រគាត់ថាខ្ញុំស្រែខ្ញុំអន់ចិត្តខ្លាំងខ្ញុំគិតថាខ្ញុំមិនសមរស់នៅទីក្រុងទេពេលនៅជាមួយបងជីដូនមួយខ្ញុំលឺគាត់យំប្តីគាត់វាយប្របាប់គាត់ប្តីគាត់និយាយថាស្អីអត់ប្រយោជន៍អញ្ចឹងហើយបានជាប្តីគាត់វាយគាត់នឹងនៅទីក្រុងរស់នៅលំបាកខ្លាំងបញ្ហាក៏ច្រើនការងារក៏មិនងាយរកបានធ្វើទៀតខ្ញុំអស់សង្ឃឹមមែនតើខ្ញុំសាកទៅធ្វើការនៅហាងម៉ាស្សាមានភ្ញៀវខ្លះប៉ះពាល់ខ្លួនប្រាណខ្ញុំខ្លះប្រមាថមើលងាយខ្ញុំសំណាងដែរតើកែខ្ញុំគាត់យល់គាត់ការពារខ្ញុំគាត់ជួយដោះស្រាយរឿងរ៉ាវដែលកើតចំពោះខ្ញុំរៀងធូរចិត្តច្រើនដែរពេលបាននិយាយអស់ពីពោះជាមួយគាត់អំពីការលំបាកគ្រប់បែបយ៉ាងខ្ញុំសាកគិតរឿងរ៉ាវជីវិតដែលខ្ញុំបានឆ្លងកាត់បេះដូងខ្ញុំបានប្រាប់ខ្ញុំថាខ្ញុំត្រូវតែបន្តទៅមុខទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញវាលំបាកមែនតែខ្ញុំមិនចោះចាញ់វាទេចុះអ្នកវិញអ្នកធ្លាប់មានអារម្មណ៍ដូចខ្ញុំអត់ធ្លាប់សួរបេះដូងខ្លួនឯងអត់អីទៅដែលធ្វើឲ្យអ្នកសប្បាយចិត្តខ្ញុំតាំងចិត្តបន្តការងារនៅទីនេះទៀតអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាដឹងអត់ខ្ញុំបកាយម៉ាស្សាណាខ្ញុំស្រឡាញ់អាជីពនេះព្រោះវាជួយអ្នកដទៃហើយខ្ញុំធ្វើវាយូរទៅខ្ញុំកាន់តែមានជំនាញនិងមានស្នាដៃខ្ញុំស្រឡាញ់ការងារនេះរាល់ថ្ងៃខ្ញុំមានផ្ទះខ្លួនឯងខ្ញុំបានហៅបងស្រីជីដូនមួយខ្ញុំមកនៅជាមួយខ្ញុំគាត់លេងទ្រាំជាមួយប្តីដែលវាយធ្វើបាបគាត់ទៀតគាត់មកនៅជាមួយខ្ញុំគាត់ប្រឹងធ្វើការដូចខ្ញុំអញ្ចឹងឥឡូវគាត់ចិត្តមានផ្ទះខ្លួនឯងដែរខ្ញុំងាកមកមើលជីវិតស្ត្រីដទៃទៀតពួកគាត់ក៏មិនខុសពីខ្ញុំដែរខ្ញុំយល់ថាស្ត្រីយើងអាចជួយគ្នាឯងបានយើងក៏អាចប្រាប់និងស្ដាប់គ្នាទៅវិញទៅមកពីអីដែលយើងបានជួបប្រទះ បើយើងអាចពួតដៃគ្នាស្ត្រីគឺខ្លាំងគឺរឹងមាំបន្តិចម្ដងណាខ្ញុំបានប្រមូលគ្នាហើយបង្កើតជាក្រុមស្ត្រីហើយយកផ្ទះខ្ញុំហ្នឹងធ្វើជាកន្លែងប្រជុំខ្ញុំលើកទឹកចិត្តឲ្យស្ត្រីដទៃទៀតបាននិយាយរឿងនៅក្នុងចិត្តរឿងជីវិតនិងក្តីសម័យរបស់ពួកគាត់ពេលខ្ញុំទៅស្រុកម្ដងខ្ញុំតែងតែយកពេលវេលារបស់ខ្ញុំដើម្បីតែចែកម្លែកសាច់រឿងជាមួយស្ត្រីក្នុងភូមិក៏ប៉ុន្តែពួកយើងសុទ្ធតែមានក្តីសង្ឃឹមដូចគ្នាយើងចង់មានសេរីភាពដូចគ្នាយើងចង់និយាយដោយចំហត្រូវហើយកុំទ្រាំទៀតដល់ពេលហើយដែលត្រូវក្លាហានហ៊ាននិយាយរឿងរ៉ាវដែលបានឆ្លងកាត់
សម្រាប់ស្ត្រីដែលរងគ្រោះដោយអំពើហិង្សាសម្រាប់ស្ត្រីដែលជាជនជាតិតាមភាគតិចសម្រាប់ស្ត្រីមកពីជនបទសម្រាប់ស្ត្រីមានវិការភាពសម្រាប់ស្ត្រីទាំងអស់គ្នា
តោះរួមគ្នាដើម្បីស្ត្រីទាំងអស់គ្នា
ការងារនេះកើតចេញពីគំនិតព្រួយផ្ដើមស្ត្រីទាំង4សហគមន៍4សាច់រឿង4ដោយទទួលបានការគាំទ្រពីកម្មវិធី Voice ដឹកនាំផលិតដោយ Leslie Gutierrez Gaduno អត្ថាធិប្បាយដោយ ខាត់ស្រីនិចនិងឃ្លាំងម៉ូលីនីន
Wow. How do you feel, everyone, after watching this video? And I apologize that the video is in Khmer, but we have a subtitle in English. If you have any thought regarding to this video, you may drop your thought in the chat box. Well, I will move to the next part that we will discuss about the tools that we use in our organization. Yes, so in here we have one of the main tools that we use in conducting the research. Mainly we use in our organization, in which we call the facilitative listening design, or FLD. It is an innovating adaptations of listening methodology, and it is a human-centered approach to have a better understanding and especially the explore about the sensitive topics to make that makes for difficult conversations. And what is special about the FLD is that it is a conversation-based approach, which is different from the normal the generals in that we normally see during the process of doing the interviewing. For FLD, it is a conversation-based in which we don't have any document related to the interviewing. For example, that we don't have any recording, we don't have any noting documentation or any things that related to what we normally use during the process of interviewing. But again, in FLD, it is a simple conversation. For example, like when we have a normal conversation with our friends. So FLD we do like this. It is normal conversations that we use with an open heart, and especially we have the sharer and the listener, and the listener themselves individually, they are from their community. They represent their own target community. For example, that we have the listener from the indigenous women. So that indigenous women, they are the listeners. So they themselves, they go to their communities and they conduct research within their community, and they collect the data from their own community, which is the special thing about the tools that we use in FLD process, because the community themselves, they conduct the research themselves, they collect data, and they are the one who know the best about the local communities and the community in their own community. So this book was produced by Women Peacemakers organizations, and we also include everything regardless to the tools and the steps that we work on with the FLD, especially when we want to work with a sensitive topic, which encourage the sharers feel like open-minded to share what they face in the societies and what they face from their own stories. This is very inspiring to use this tool, especially from what we have been doing and our experiences. So here is what this look like when conduct listening designs. And you may questions that how can we collect the data if the listeners doesn't have anything to note down or any recordings tools to use during the process of conducting the conducting the research or doing the conversations. Of course, we have, but the listener will do after the conversations in a private space. We have 2 listeners. So they will note down and memorize everything what they hear exactly from the sharers, no adding information from their own perspective, just note down exactly what they hear from the sharer. So this is the way that we collect the data in the process of FLD. So let's move to the next slide. Yeah, so the last 2 years, have you seen in the video about the 4 women 4 communities that the each woman they have different identity and they also come from different background, but they come together and work together as a supporting system. For example, like we have women with disability, rural women, indigenous women, and women who face violence. They are from different identities, but they join together as the communities and work together toward what they have faced. Especially, they find a common issues that they face in terms of discriminations. So from this time, they are not individual anymore. They are not alone anymore. They come together. Can you move to the next slide? So here's the findings from what we have done during the process of FLD. So I will not detail about it because it is written in the book already about the informations that we have found related to the victims related to the women who face violence. For example, like they've experienced emotional, economic, physical, and sexual violence, as our panelist has just mentioned as well. And they also face the negative gender stereotype and victim blaming continue to happen. So you may have a look in the research finding. Could you move to the next slide? There is also the finding from the rural women as well, that the listeners they are from the rural women. They go to the community and collect the data, and it found out that they have faced many challenges in their lifetime, regardless of their identity, from where they come from, especially in the rural area, move to the city. For example, that they often come to the city with limited work options and labor exploitations. And another finding is about the indigenous women. Could you move to the next slide? So it's not different from the other findings that we have found, that the indigenous listeners, they go to the community and conduct the research and found out that they also face the many challenges regardless to their identities. They are looked down in the societies, in the workplace, in schools, and so on. And also the next finding, it's about the women who have disabilities, that they also want to focus on. Could you stop it? Yes, could you move to the next slide? I didn't put the women with disabilities finding in here, but I will state out about the findings of women who have disabilities, that they want to focus on the ability beyond disability. So here is just a brief findings about what we have found in 4 Women 4 community that we use the FLD. So as I mentioned at the beginnings, that at the first, they are from individuals, they have their identity, they are different, but now at this time they sit together, they come together, and they not only voice out their own voice about the issues that they face, but they stand together, they sit together and voice out about the issues that all the group have faced in terms of the discriminations that they find out in the common issue that they have faced. And could you move to the next slide? This is the forum that we conducted. And then, can you guess what is going next? The next 2 years after that, 2 years later, there is a networking connections. There is a connection between the groups of the marginalized groups. So now we have another network to which we call an Our Turn network. Our Turn network, which we have the women from the four communities that joined us an Our Turn network, that we have the 5 communities within this network. We have the blind women communities, indigenous women community, minority women, intersex youth, and especially in Our Turn network, we have the LGBTIQ+ group who join us as a network and work together. Could you move to the next slide? In here, you could see they are from, for example, the indigenous women here from Champai. She now come together and build a networking systems. I mentioned earlier about the Our Turn network, that they join together, that they learn from each other about each of the community context. They build a unity and they influence the voice about the issue that they have faced. And they are not only voice about the issue that they face individually in their group, but when they are doing the advocacy, they always join together. They will come together and support each other, even they have different identity and different background. This is what we work to support the marginalized group and how we respond to the discrimination issues and gender-based violence that happen in our society. So this is an inspiring tools that we use, especially as I mentioned about the FLD, that we collect these sensitive topics about the marginalized groups, and we collect the data about and getting to understand about the community itself, getting to know the issues and especially the needs that they want. So we work together as leaders of each group from the 5 communities and support each others and advocate for what is the demand from the communities, especially from the 5 communities, from the diverse community that we work together. So our voice is bigger than before, and we are not alone anymore, because we have joined as a networking system. So could you move to the next slide? So in here, this is the network that we have in the 5 community, from LGBT, blind women, intersex youth. We have minority women and indigenous women join together and work together to fight for what they have faced in their group. Could you move to the next slide? And here, the last time we have the 4 women for community, and this time we have a joint marginalized group from the minority women and LGBTIQ+. Could you move to the next slide? And here is also the finding from the LGBTQI+ as well. Again, I will not detail about the finding because it is available online as well from the finding in our website. So this is the finding that the listeners, or we can call it the one who conduct the research, that the LGBT couple, they go to their own communities, they collect the data from the 10 LGBTs in Cambodia, and here is what we found out about the issues that they have faced. And the next slide, it shows about the group of minority women that we work on, and the finding that has written in the books about the issues and of Cham Muslim women, ethnic Vietnamese women, and Khmer Krom women in Cambodia. So once again, here's the finding that we have found and the works that we work to respond to the needs and the demand from the community or the target community in each group. Could you move to the next slide? Yes, here's the networks that we built from the last 2 years and 2 years later until now. Is the network which we call our 10 network that we work together. Could you move to the next slide? This is also what we work and advocate together, that you may see by their casual or by their dress that the first girl, they are from indigenous women, child, and LGBTIQ plus. So what you can see is that they are not only work or advocate for individually, but they work together in one advocacy and towards their challenges that they have faced. Once again, here we are. Yes, thank you. So this is the brief sharing about the tools that we use and how we connect the network together as a supporting systems and build a unity to work and respond to the marginalized group. And we don't want to let someone behind, so that we work together and as a joint networking system when we and as a supporting systems. And this is what we work together. And the next, and also, as I mentioned earlier, that FLD and the findings of the 6 books are not only the works that we work on. So there are many resources that we work, especially about the alternative dispute resolutions made that we are working on with the gender responsive mediations and the other tools that we use to work and respond to the gender-based violence in the society. If you wish to learn more about us, we also have in our website, in wpmcambodia.org website, if you wish to learn more. So thank you so much once again, everyone. This is the end of my presentations.
Thank you, Ms. Chakriya, for this amazing presentation. So Ms. Chakriya made mention of how the Women Peacemakers, an NGO in Cambodia, support women facing violence. And again, also mentioned about approaches used to help women in Cambodia. Okay, now we are moving on to the question and answer session, and I can see some that some have raised their hands to give their questions out. Hello, Professor Rina.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much, Enoch, and thank you so much for all the speakers. Okay, I only have one question because it's almost approaching the praying time for the Muslims. Okay, it's for Chakriya. Okay, Chakriya, I would like to know how many days or months when you collect data by using that approach, because it seems like the researchers are from the community, and then they interview, and then they have to listen carefully, and they also pass it all the data to others without adding perspective and other things. So I think it may take some time. I don't know how are you going to organize this. Thank you, Chakriya.
Thank you so much, Rina, for an interesting questions. So in here in FLD tools that we use, we have the step to do that. So even though we have the Thakat community that represent their own community, that we will use that we will need their help to conduct the research within their own community. So we will have the coachings and training coaching lab with the listeners, which we for example, we hire them from the represents from their own community. For example, like the LGBTIQ plus communities, we will have two listeners, and from the other communities, we will have two listeners. So we will have the coaching lab, and we will train them how to do the research. For example, like we also produce the questionnaire for each of the community to do when they go to their own community and having conversations with their target community. So in here, when they are doing when we are having the conversations, of course, maybe you still wonder how can they collect the data when they're just having conversation, and how can they remember? We believe and we trust our listener, because we trust the ways that we use us a very simple way to have a basic conversation. For example, like when we like unfortunately we meet our friend, we have a conversation. So when we make it into simple, we kind of remember everything that especially not everything, but we remember the main points that we are having a discussion with our friends. So it's not different in terms of using the FOD. We just want to make it simple like that. And another thing is a sensitive subtopic. If we use the tool, for example, the recording, the noting down, the sharer, how the sharer feel when they sees we have the video camera going on. Instead of that, we build a connection, we build a relations, and it's not the sharer themselves who just share and share, but the listener also join the conversation, which we call the conversation base, because they are from that community, so they know their own community as well. So this make a connection between the sharer and the listener to share, especially the sensitive topic that they are hardly share with the others outside their own community, especially their own community. And then after that, the listener will be away from the sharer. They find the private space and they just, as I mentioned, they note down everything that they remember. They memorize what they remember from the discussion with no adding. So no adding any thought, the perspective from the sharer. They just write down what they remember, immediately after the conversation. So after the conversation, they will go away and just note down everything what they remember, the main point about it. And then we will have another another lab about collecting the data. Yes, I hope that I answers your question, Rina.
Okay, thank you so much. Probably I will keep in touch with you because I'm interested in research. Okay, next time I will, try to discuss with you in more detail. Thank you. Thank you so much. Back to you, Osei.
Okay, thank you, Professor Rina, for the interesting question. Now we have some questions in the chat, but some of these questions have been answered. So because of the time, I think we will not go to them. So let me quickly move on to this one. So the first question was directed to Mr. Rohit Karki, and it says how to enforce gender equality in developed countries. And there was also another question directed to Mr. Rohit Karki. I think that question was asking about the situation of Rohingya people from Myanmar who are facing some difficulties. Let me find that question. Oh yeah, the question says, hi, my name is Rahman Setyawan from Batam International University. I would like to ask to Mr. Robert, is the Rohingya issue a human rights violation? What do you think needs to be done to solve this problem?
I would be very brief. I will respond to the second question first and then go with the first question. I responded briefly in the chat as well, but as we all know by now, the Rohingya issue is a human rights violation, and it's not only me, but the ICC court back in 2022 also, I think they gave a verdict that it was a genocidal issues, and it sets a kind of legal precedent under the international law. So we don't have to discuss whether it's a human rights violation issue or not. In terms of how do we want to address, there could be a series of proposition that we can talk about. But first of all, I think it's the thing that the military, who have committed this gross human rights violation, the chain of command within the military, they need to be made accountable towards this gross human rights violation. Equally, at the same time, we also need to address the root causes of the conflict at the first place. Right now, the Rohingya issue is most of them are displaced across the border in the Bangladesh side, so it requires a lot of diplomatic engagement between Bangladesh and Myanmar at the same time. And overall, we need to talk about the development issue and the socio-economic development issue in the Rakhine state as well. And also there is an issue of talking about inter-community dialogues, promoting inter-community dialogues within that state as well. We can talk about number of other recommendations as well, but for now, I will stop there. The second question, I didn't quite get it. Was it, something related to how do you increase the gender equality in developed countries, right? Am I correct? If that's the question, I mean, we talk a lot about developing countries, but yeah, our developed countries, sitting here in Switzerland, I think a lot of feminists, they want to have an equal pay policies, respecting that their work is respected and they receive the equal pay as per as with the men. And that's what I saw it lacking in the most of the developed countries, be it in Switzerland, be it in the Scandinavian countries. And also the flexibility on the workplace. Especially after the pandemic, there is a lot of demand, and a lot of the organization has made amendment to flexible hours. And also there's a lot of discussion on promoting women in the leadership positions, which is also lacking in most of the developed countries as well. And there could be host of other issues, but of course the family-friendly policy could be another one, but also combating gender stereotypes, which is also prevalent in the developed countries. There could be, the list can go on and on, but I will stop there for now, because of the time constraint as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robert Karki. There is another question from Miss Nainis Zahara, lecturer.
It's Zahara. Yes, it is.
Yeah, a lecturer from UIB, and the question was directed to Miss Nirasha. The question says, it is interesting that you explain about intimate partner violence not only happens in Sri Lanka. Indonesia also faces similar issues, since a lot of intimate partner violence has caused deaths in Indonesia a couple of times. Could you give any insight about society reactions regarding this issue? I would like to compare with Indonesia's society reaction that still sees intimate partner violence as general household problem and better not be published. Thank you.
Thank you, Osei. Thank you, Nini, for the question. Actually, I already wrote my answer to her, but I will give you a small brief about that. Actually, the reaction of our community depend on the incident, but most of the time, our community forced to the women, if she's a mother, our community forced them to tolerate gender-based violence to protect the family. They always tell, okay, your children need a father, so don't leave the family. Try to tolerate, stay patiently. Women should be strong. These are the reactions coming from our community commonly, but sometimes, depend on the incident, we see the community stand against gender-based violence. It's powerful than law enforcement, a community reaction. So that's we can see some positive impact of social media. Even those police officers and the Supreme Court cannot solve some problems. Our community, the unity of the community and reaction of the community could bring solutions to some incidents of gender-based violence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nirasha. Maybe I will add some more in the discussions. Really grateful that you have an answer in the chat box and also in the session. I think we're facing the same things that can inspire maybe the researchers in Indonesia, because social media also has an impact in intimate partners violence in Indonesia, because we've seen I've seen some issues in TV and also the internet. They have the different reactions. The bad reactions that like the woman has to be strong and stay with the family is mostly come from the reality society, and the support to fight for that, fight for the rights of the women is come from the social media, especially from the Instagram comments and Twitter replies comes from that. So I think the data from you is very useful for us. Thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks to all the speakers and also participants who asked their questions. I think because of the time, we cannot ask the other questions. So let me quickly call upon Miss Naini Zahara to give the question marks to end the program.
Thank you so much, Osei and Aboagye, as the moderator of this seminar. Okay, I would like to thank you for all the participants, and also I would like to thank you, Nukila Evanty and Ibu Rina Sharullah, that invited me to giving a closing remarks to the sessions of webinar series. I really like to, I really love the issues that you bring to the table today. And for the closing remarks, actually, I'm very grateful to be supporting system to the program of Ibu Rina and Ibu Nukila. Yeah, make a lot of more gender issues webinar ahead. Yeah, as also been published before. Yeah, we have discussed a lot, several issues that we're going to talk more. Yeah, as the cooperation between Women Working Group from Ibu Nukila and also ASEAN Study Center from Universitas International Batam, and also the Women Study Center from Universitas International Batam. Yeah, so maybe in the next year, we will talk more about the gender entrepreneurship, human rights, gender and transnational crimes. Yeah, or maybe this year we talk more about human rights, and next year we talk about specific issues regarding gender and human rights, regarding the research method, online crimes, FO engagement, and maybe also environmental issues. Yeah, especially affecting the women's in behavior in the future, and also academic approaches to the human rights and gender issues. I hope all the speakers will also contribute, still want to contribute to our program, and also all the participants, please do not be bored to come with us again, and then watch our webinar series and take the knowledge from our seminars. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm back to you, Osei and Enoch.
Thank you, Ms. Naini Zahara, for the closing remarks. Okay, thank you for everyone for the time. We shall meet once again.